I think that it's important for people who are as old as I am and older, even though we may not get everything the millennials are doing, even though we may not agree with everything that they're doing, please, let's do remember. Let's do remember that we've got to support. We've got to give them room. And over time, if their thinking needs to adjust, it will, because we're all still growing. None of us are static. We're all still growing. But to shut them down and shut them out is a mistake. But to let them have their leadership moments and give them an opportunity to grow, even if I don't see the fruit of it myself.
Thank you for that. You see, that is it. That is the power of love. It is powerful.
It is.
It is powerful. And talking of the millennium, talking of the younger generation, of course, we don't even have alternative. They are the only hope that we have. So we must allow them to live and to live fully, to express themselves, and to be able to judge this world according to how they understand it. Because that is the only way we can go forward. Otherwise, we are going to be going backward.
I like how
Thank
you
you.
phrased it, to judge this world as they find it. They don't find it the way that I do because they're not living a 50-plus-year-old life looking at it right. And I love that, to judge it the way that they find it, and hopefully they can find the grace and mercy to still include us over 50-year-olds, meaning that they also have to look at us through that lens of love, that perhaps my inability to take it that far is something that they can still love and affirm. It's a two-way street, I think. Well, they're giving some mercy and some grace, and I'm giving some mercy and grace. But what we have in common is the love of all humanity, people of African descent being among them, not being exclusive, not being first. It's not a ranking. We're just simply saying we're as human as everyone else, entitled to all the rights that all humans are. Similarly, people in the LGBTQIA plus community, human people, entitled to all the rights that any humans are entitled to, and that we're linking arms and saying, as we move forward into the 21st century, we want to get closer to a more perfect union, if I may use lingo from United States history. We want a more perfect union, and that more perfect union has to have equity in it, and equity and inclusion. It has to, if it's going to be more perfect.
All right. Now, looking at African American, looking at the larger diaspora community, and looking at history, because you're a historian, I want to believe that there are some people who yet do not even understand how to describe history. How do you describe history yourself?
I'll describe it the way I was trained, and then I can perhaps break it down a little bit. So at Michigan State, we had a program ran by Dr. Darlene Cockheim, who's at Northeastern University now. And she taught us that history is a process. It's not a who, what, when, where. Those are the facts that journalists study: who, what, when, where. She taught us that history is the process. So history answers the question of how and why. And the process that we're looking at is how things have changed over time. So history is a process. It's not the facts of what, when, where, and who. No, history is a process of how things change over time. And the process is explained by asking how and why. So the minute you ask how this happened and why this happened, and you begin to explain it as a change over time, then that's when you're actually talking about history. And perhaps, Obehi, that's why I am optimistic, because I can look at change over time in the lived experience of being a Black person in the United States, and I can see some things have changed for the better. Not everything, but I can see some things have changed for the better. And there have been some challenges that have persisted, some challenges that are so entrenched in the culture, in the thinking of the country, that we have not been able to overturn them as of yet. But the ascension of the first Black female Supreme Justice gives me hope. It gives me hope. It gives me hope. So if you want to understand history, you can't get stuck on the negative. You have to say, when I look at it over time, do I see change for the better? When I look at it over time and I see the things that are wrong, that are negative, that have persisted, do I see new thinking and new strategies to address it? I'm sorry to harp here, but I'm going to go here. This is why those young people are so important, Obehi, because if we're still seeing the same problems, persistently, consistently, so entrenched that we have not been able to change them, Obehi, that suggests that the strategies we've been using have not worked, or else that should have been solved by now. So we do need fresh thinking, new people at the table to come up with some strategies and some ways of dealing with it that we haven't tried before. Because if we had done it correctly, that particular issue or challenge or problem would not still be with us.
You are talking and also thinking like a scientist. That is how the scientists work, no? Because if we already know everything, like, okay, in the religious field, we already know everything, everything is understood. It must be like this. When it gets to this, that is the end of it, nothing more, nothing new. But the scientists don't think like that. Ah, okay, this is how you see it. Okay, fine. But let's try there is another way to see it. So in this world, in the world that we live in today, the 21st century, we must appreciate, we must, in fact, invite other point of view to how the thing functions. In fact, this is one of the things I really love about the United States as a country, as a kind of an experiment, I would usually say, you know, is that they want to test everything. The scientists welcome all the point of view. Let's examine it. It's based on evidence. If after we have done everything, we haven't succeed, that is where it ends for us now. Other people must continue with the same logic of try to find out. I love that. I love that very well. Now, looking at history, looking at the possibility that younger people should and must participate in history and with their point of view also, with the way they see it, where do you think they should start from?
There are two groups of young people. So we have the 18 to 35. So they are legally adult. And most of them are probably either still in school, just starting their career, starting their family, just buying a house. And so they have a lot of demand on their resources, a lot of demand on their time. So that's one group of young people. And then we have young people who are not legally fully adult, they're under 18. So we have these two groups of young people. So I'm going to address the former and then the latter. So the young people who are under 18 years of age. It's encouraging to see that across the United States, there is a lot of choice in terms of educating your child. They can go to public school, they can go to charter school. Because of COVID, we had another option emerge, homeschooling like never before. It could be homeschooling that you're doing independently, homeschooling because the charter school allows homeschool or remote, homeschool because the school district allows. So we have those options. So we have a lot of options with regards to education. What I would love to see, regardless of what the option is, if the parent is in control of it, or if it's remote from a charter or public school, or if it's on site with charter, or if it's on site with public, is more attention to character development and a social responsibility that's beyond just citizenship, and more so about your role in being in the human family. That would be really great. And it's idealistic of me, Obehi, because there are people who get upset about trans youth, for example. They don't want boys, quote unquote, playing on girls' teams. They don't want boys going into the girls' bathroom. And they're so stuck on how they view a young person who is transitioning from their biological assigned sex into their real identity of who they are, that they can't see that short-sightedness is not only harmful for that child and the development of that one human, but it's not healthy for the children overall to get that message of rejection, to criminalize their parents' desire to show them unconditional love and support, even if it means going as far as consulting a doctor about medications and surgery and those things of that nature. They don't see that. So that's what I would hope. And again, it's a pipe dream and pie in the sky for character education that positions our children to realize they're a part of something called the human family. Beyond being Black, beyond being American, you're a part of the human family. And in the human family, we all need unconditional love, safety, protection from being tormented, traumatized, etc., and being positioned to evolve and grow into the most loving, productive human that we absolutely can, no matter what the other labels are: male, female, rich, poor, Black, white, American, Ukraine, no matter what the label is, humans.